Hey, Andrew here from the Investor's Way, and welcome to Woody's Weekly Wisdom, episode number 50. So we've made it all the way to 50 episodes. Thanks for being along for the journey. And today we're looking at something that has actually come up a fair bit in conversation recently, and it was interesting that it would hit the news feed this morning when I was checking out what to talk about. The original headline is slightly different to this one, but by the time I click through on it, we get this headline, which says, new Commonwealth Bank data shows Rentvest trend on the rise for home buyers. So what is Rentvest? What does that mean, and why is it on the rise? Well, I don't think you need to be Einstein to know why it's on the rise. You probably have been following along and would know, what has been happening in the property market here in Australia. But rentvesting is basically where you become a property investor and you go and buy a property in a location that makes sense, but is not necessarily the location that you want to live in. And so you rent in the location that you want to rent to live and spend your day-to-day activity. So it's well and truly on the rise. And it's a major factor because where people want to live is becoming more and more expensive and difficult for the younger members of community to access. So rather than try and save up and live where they want to, buy where they want to live, they are getting into the property market now in a suitable location and then renting and taking advantage of living where they want to live. And so it is basically a result of the fact that, like I said, if you look at the property market in Australia and what's been happening there, we're a coastal country, so people want to live close to the coast. And so over the last decade, prices in coastal communities have gone rapidly higher. And as a result, it's kind of priced the younger generation out of those markets. So rather than go and live somewhere where they don't really want to be, they're rentvesting. And so that has led to this phenomenon. And so, as it says here, the shrewd new trend that's taking hold is home buyers to get their foot into the property game and into the mystique of property in Australia and the desire of Australians to hold a property. They are getting into, like I said, other locations and then renting where they want to live. And so, the Commonwealth Bank is seeing more and more Australians pursuing this option, and I guess it's creating this phenomenon where there's more and more pressure on house prices when it comes to buying, because you've got lots and lots of people looking to buy. But at the same time, it's then putting lots of people into the rental market, which normally if they've bought, they'd go straight in and live in that property, but they're staying in the rental market. So it's creating this duplicate stress in that it's pushing house prices higher, but it's also putting more strain on the rental market in areas where people want to be. So, we live I live in a rental community, a coastal community. And we see it all the time with the rental market here, where as soon as something comes up for rent, you've got 20 and 30 people looking to get into that space, because again, that's where the whole community wants to live. The young community wants to live here, and people of my vintage want to live here because it is such a great place to live. So that's what we're seeing up and down southeast Australia. And even similar in other parts of Australia as well, including South Australia and Perth, where people want to live where the beach towns are. And so rentvesting is rising as an option for people to get into the property ladder, as it's described here, sooner rather than later, so that they can get a property at a lower cost than what they would if they would have to buy where they want to live, and at least get in the game and get get the property market working for them. And so the Commonwealth Bank has concluded that it's the millennials that are the most active generation in this space. And they're saying 46% of the bank's new property investors in 2023 are made up of Australians between 1981 and 1996. So pretty phenomenal percentage. And then my generation, Generation X, we accounted for 37% of new investment property purchases. And that's then kind of like leads me into one of the other really interesting statistics that I've been looking at again this week for updates that we're making to our website. And that's about the number of property investors who have more than one property. And historically, that's only been less than 20%. It's slightly on the increase at the moment. I think it's now something like 24% of property investors in Australia, as of a couple of years ago where the data is available, actually have more than one property. So for me, that's a really interesting statistic because it just shows you that people aren't using the leverage that comes from the first one to get into the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and so on. But yeah, here we are talking about rentvesting, and we've got a large percentage of property investors coming from the Millennials and Gen X, and a lot of those are getting in to the rentvesting scenario. Average size of this property investor, our average age is 43, and the average loan size was just over 500,000. So you can do the maths and say, well, obviously at 500,000, that's not buying in a coastal community because they're much more expensive than that, and potentially double that, triple that. So it makes sense, for millennials to say, I'm not going to spend all of my young adult life saving every cent to buy the dream home when I can get an investment property and live where I want to live and have the lifestyle I want to have. And so I suspect this is going to become more and more of a common theme that we see as a result of the way property prices have gone, until we see some fundamental shift in the property market, whether it be increases in wages, or we see in the unlikely scenario a significant drop in the property market. And with everything else that we've been talking about on these weekly wisdoms in terms of immigration strategies from the government, it's highly unlikely we're going to see that massive drop in property prices. We might see the cooling of inflation, which will see cooling in build costs, which will bring a little bit of relief into the property market, but not to the extent that it's going to necessarily change this trend that we're seeing in terms of rent vesting. And it's this last paragraph, which is interesting when you look at where people are looking to buy. The top postcodes for new property investment purchases in 2023 in Sydney, it was the postcode of 2000, which is Sydney, in the CBD, including Haymarket. 3029, which takes in West Melbourne, including Hoppers Crossing. 2765, which is Northwest Sydney, including Marsden Park. So that's slightly out from the coastal towns. And then you've got 3064, which encompasses North Melbourne, including Craigieburn. And then 2155, which takes in Northwest Sydney, including Kellyville. So that's a really good example of what I'm talking about here. Kellyville, for those who don't know, is about an hour away from the city. Not too long ago, it would probably have been considered a regional town, but not so much anymore. And great place for young families to buy properties, but also a great place for investors to get in there and provide a home for those families I'm talking about who can't or aren't interested in buying at the moment. So the data's there. It's supporting what I'm saying in terms of people are looking to invest away from the coastal communities and potentially live in the coastal community that they've been brought up in or that they want to live in. And the other one is potentially in the city locations. But it is really showing you that the impact of inflation and rising build costs and the rising property market over the last decade has made it harder and harder for millennials to get into the property market initially as potentially buying their dream first home. So rather than wait, they're investing and they're renting where they want to live. And that's more and more, like I said, going to be a popular strategy, and one that I think more and more people should think about rather than putting themselves under a lot of pressure to curtail the lifestyle they want to have in order to be able to fund a mortgage for a home that they want to live in. Why not put that money to work for you in an investment property and get the numbers working through Rentvesting to work for you, so that you're in a better position from an investment perspective, and you're in a better position from a week-to-week money management position. So that's a really interesting piece of data and story coming out of the Commonwealth Bank. Not a normal Woody Weekly Wisdom where we're kind of ripping the headline apart based on what's below it in terms of the data. This one is just a really interesting story about what's happening in the property market as a result of all of the factors that we've been talking about over the years. So we're talking over the first 50 episodes of these weekly wisdoms. You're talking about inflation, rising interest rates, rising property market, all coming, I guess, full circle to cause an impact where millennials are not necessarily thinking, I want to buy my first property for my living purposes. I'm going to buy my first property as an investment, and I'm going to rent where I want to live. And that is very much being played out by millennials and then by Gen X as well. So really interesting statistics, and worthy of being mindful when it comes to your investing strategies about where should you be investing your dollars, and maybe that just reinforces the fact that people are looking to live in places that they are looking to rent in places where they are more wanting to spend their time, but not necessarily to buy in those locations. So as an investor, you've got the options of, if you can, of investing in those locations if you've got the capacity, and that's probably more the Gen X generation. And then you've got the millennials who can go and buy outside of the coastal towns, provide a home for somebody else, and get on the property ladder so that you can grow your wealth over time. And so a great strategy, one that I fully support. And like I always say, if you want to know more about all of these strategies and how to implement them into your scenario, click any of the links that we provide to have a chat with us, or let us know that you want to have a chat. Leave a comment down below, and we can reach out and have a conversation and see if there's something we can do to help you. And if you want to really help us out, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell to get notified when these videos come out. Smash the subscribe button so we can get more and more people seeing these videos. And if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, leave us a comment, hit the share button and the like buttons, and let's get more and more people seeing these weekly wisdoms so that we can have an impact on more and more people and hit my target of impacting 1 million lives with better money and investing literacy and education. So there it is. Rentvest is on the rise. And as a strategy, I think it's one that is going to become more and more popular over coming years and decades. So that's it for episode number 50 of Woody's Weekly Wisdom. Have a great week. We'll see you again next week. Cheers.